I want to welcome everybody to our September school board meeting, and we will start with the adoption of the agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any discussion? Public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next up will be the flag salute by Trustee Varner.
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we'll turn it over to Superintendent Stokes for his report.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Members of the board, it's a pleasure to be with you today, and I'd like to also extend a warm welcome to members of our audience who are here as guests and as regular attendees. We appreciate their support. We have royalty in the room. Carson High School has just recently completed our homecoming, and we have with us Mrs. Ann Britt, who is the leadership class sponsor, and she will introduce these great-looking young people.
Thank you for having us here tonight. We just got done with homecoming. It was in my opinion, it was a very successful week. We had lots of dress-up days and activities throughout the week, and a great participation, probably the most participation I have seen yet at Carson High, so it was very exciting for me. These are my two king and queen, homecoming king, queen. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what they like the most about homecoming and what they plan on doing after they graduate. Yeah.
Okay, hi, I'm Taryn Encinas. I won Homecoming Queen this year. My favorite part about homecoming was probably getting to ride in the Jeeps before the game started because that was pretty fun. And then after school, I plan on studying kinesiology.
Hello, I'm Anthony Singh. I'm the homecoming king for Carson High School. My favorite part of the homecoming was probably the dress-up days. They had us dressing up in something every single day. And after school, I plan on going to nursing school and then eventually becoming a care flight nurse.
I'd just like to congratulate you guys. Good job. And it looks like you both got your future pretty well planned out, so hopefully it'll work out very well for you guys. I'm sure it will. Thank you.
Thanks for representing our schools so well.
And I'll just congratulate everybody. Taryn, congratulations. Known you since way before you were royalty. So congratulations. But no, congratulations to both of you. I know it's a lot of fun and it is an honor, so enjoy it.
Mr. Walker, members of the board, I'd like to let you know that I was able to spend the day with our state superintendent, Joan Ebert, and several of her colleagues. They were very complimentary as they walked around our buildings, saw the great shape and, of course, attractive nature of our buildings, and really appreciated the opportunity to speak with staff and with students. And at the end of the day, we had another meeting for our administrators, our trustees, and also parents. And so it was great to have them in our schools and to cement a good relationship. And we look forward to working with her and with her staff to greater degrees. Next, I would like to introduce Sandra Ramirez, who is new to us this year. Sandra, if you would just kind of join me down front, I'll join you at the front table there. As you know, we have a food service organization that helps us with our nutritional services program, and sometimes over time, we have changes in the leadership that represents Aramark, and This is our newest installation. This is Sandra Ramirez, recently moved to Carson City from Texas. I forget exactly where. It's a big state, I know that. But I'd like to have you recognize her title and certainly her name, and give her a chance to say hello and maybe give us a little bit of background of where she's worked in the past, and chance for you to ask her a few questions as well.
Hi. So yes, my name is Sandra. I recently moved here from Texas. It was Plainview, Texas. It's exactly how it sounds. It was a plain view. It's very flat. So this scenery was very, very different. To tell you a little bit about myself, I have been with Aramark since March of 2000. I have worked in 3 previous districts, all in Texas, from South Texas. Like I said, recently, Plainview is kind of closer to the Panhandle. I went blank, sorry. I look forward to meeting each and every one of you. Welcome any questions or concerns. If you ever need anything, please, I know you know where the nutrition office is, so please feel free to reach out to me. I did want to inform you that we also have an addition, a DM that is, we had a new DM that'll help us support the West area. District manager, I apologize. New district manager, his name is Andres Montoya. You'll probably be seeing him more. Unfortunately, he's doing some onboarding and training right now. But he basically came on to help support me, to help support you, help support the district, and help support Brian, because Brian's area was such a large area. So that way we have more support in this area. I did want to let you know that.
Thank you. Any questions for Sandra?
I would just say welcome.
Thank you. I do say y'all a lot, so I apologize, but that does just kind of come out.
That works for us. All right, well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
Time.
And welcome, Madam President, members of the board. Just one more short item. I'd like to invite Terry Cantley to come forward. Mrs. Cantley is no stranger to this board, and we know that in a sense, she has passed the torch of being president of the association to another individual who's also here tonight, and we can introduce her as well. But Terry's been a mainstay in our work together, and of course, she's been the president of the Classified Association for many years and has been instrumental in working with district leaders over time, and has really helped to establish the good working relationship, in part, that we have with all of our employee groups. And we felt it was fitting tonight to have her come take a few bows, let her know how much we appreciate her, and let her know that, of course, she's always welcome, and we look forward to continuing to work with her. I doubt if she'll go too far. She has a wealth of knowledge and understanding of the contracts and just good practices in general, and she's always done a lot to help support the district and her fellow members of the association, as she should. And so we just want to say thank you, appreciate the good work over time, and look forward to our continued association. Of course, Terry is still actively engaged in the school district and is the friendly voice that you hear when you call the transportation department. Terry, any thoughts?
Lots.
This is the one time before you retire, then you have that retirement time too, so that you get 2 shots here.
Okay, well, when Renee called me about a week and a half ago and said there's only one right answer about being invited to this meeting, I said, that's bribery. But then my question to her was, don't you guys have anything better to do with your time other than to recognize me for what I have done? I've enjoyed it. It's been quite a ride. I'm not going anywhere. I'll still be here. I don't plan on retiring for, who knows? It might be another 20 years, who knows? But I've been an officer for 19 years with CESA, and about, I would say a good 12 of those have been president. So it's been very interesting. Been through a couple, 3, 4 superintendents. And I won't say how many associate superintendents I've been through. Jose knows he's my favorite insect. I keep calling him that. But it's been quite fun. Stacy and I have been, we've known each other since our PTA days, and I won't say how many years ago that was. Yeah, you're welcome. But I think I leave the Carson Educational Support Association in really good hands. So at this time, I'd like to introduce my replacement, Carrie Finn, who is the Health Services EMT at Carson Middle School. She's taken over my position. So Carrie, come up here. Oh, from us. I thought that's for Carl, or for Jose.
For Carl, too.
Just push the button.
Hello, everyone. Carrie Finn here. I don't really know what to say. You guys know I don't like getting up here to talk. I'm really happy, to take this on. Terry is going to be helping. And I'm confident that we will be successful. I have a really good board, and we will work together to communicate with administrators, you guys, and that's it. Thank you.
Well, this is my fault because I wanted to recognize you, and I know how you hate it in public, but you have done such great service that everyone needed to know and be able to say thank you for all the hard work, because it's because of people like you that we have the district that we do. I mean, when we go places and people talk about their associations and their unions and everything, and I just sit there and go, I don't understand. Because we've all disagreed at times, but we've always had the children first. And it always shows in the end. And to do it as long as you have, I had to do this. And that's why Renee said you couldn't say no. And Carl, I appreciate you bringing her. So I know she probably kicked and screamed all the way through to the car. And Carrie, we're just trying to get you used to it because I know you hate this too. So I get a 2 for tonight. So I was rushing to get here by this anyway. So, but we do appreciate everything you've done. And it's not enough to say thank you, but thank you.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate this, but really, couldn't you have picked on someone else besides me?
Not tonight.
Congrats on your new position and congrats on leaving that position.
It's always great being past president, let me tell you.
I do want to put a shout out there. My boss, Cherie Fletcher, who's the transportation supervisor, whom I'm sure most of you know as Big Bird, she tried to get her to come tonight, and it's her birthday. So anyway, I just want to put a shout out there to Cherie. Happy birthday, boss.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night. Appreciate you coming.
Thanks again.
Madam President, members of the board, that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Stokes. Going on to board reports, Carson High. Ginger.
Hi. As heard at the beginning of the meeting, last week was homecoming week, so that was fun. And you guys all saw our Queen and King. And all the activities all week and dress-up days during the school days had good turnout. It was one of the best. With the dance, getting the biggest turnout out of all the dances ever. And then the football game, the homecoming football game, they won against Hug, and the student section was packed. It was really fun. The theme was whiteout, and we had like colored powder that we threw out on everyone, and so they were all colorful. So that was homecoming week. And then today, FCA, Fellowship of Christian athletes gave out root beer floats at lunch to the student body, and well, everyone loved that who got one. A lot of people did. And then winter sports registration is open now through November 13th, which is basketball, wrestling, ski, winter cheer, and club bowling. And then a couple colleges are coming to visit in the next week or so to our school. On September 27th is the University of Montana Western, and on October 3rd is UNR. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ginger. Richard?
Yes, I'd also like to give a thank you for the state superintendent for coming out. Enjoyed being able to visit with her, and I think she'll be a very good advocate for all the districts in Nevada. So I appreciate her coming out and doing the listening tour. For Boardwalk Bray, they're having their walk to school day on October 2nd. They can walk from the governor's mansion, they'll walk from home, or the fire station on Stewart Street. And so if you have any students that's attending Boardwalk Bray, that's what they're going to do on that date. On October 4th, they're also having their annual Jogathon fundraiser. So they'd invite everybody to come out that morning and support the kids in their Jogathon. And I really have no report for Carson Middle School.
Thank you, Lupe.
I also want to thank Mr. Stokes for inviting us to meet the state superintendent. She seemed very genuine. It was very nice to meet her, so thank you. And then I do have a report for Empire. Super exciting news. Their school rating moved from 2-star to 3-star. So congratulations to Ms. Squires and her staff. That's magnificent news. On October 8th, they have snacks and stories, and this is when they invite parents and their children to go and share a story, and they show the parents how to read to their children at home, and they do a project as a family, and then they take a book home so they can continue reading, which is wonderful. On October 24th, they have the Fall Festival, and they support Fish Food Drive. So they're asking people to bring a can of food so they can enter into a $50 raffle gift card. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Laurel.
I'd also like to thank the state superintendent. I was able to attend part of the touring, listening tour at Carson High School and at Eagle Valley today. And I'd like to thank our staff and teachers for opening up the classrooms and providing such a good, and the students. They, especially the leadership class, they did a great job. They were posed an open floor to ask questions and give suggestions, and those kids really had a lot of good ideas and good conversation. And I particularly like the one girl who said, well, if I'd known about this, I could have had better prepared questions. So that's something to keep in mind too. And also last night I attended the National Honor Society induction at Carson High, and we have 2 new advisors at the high school. And so I appreciate them stepping up to take on that, because that's an important extracurricular or co-curricular to have going at the school. And so it was a nice ceremony and a good experience that way. My report for Fritch Elementary School is that they are having the PTA fundraiser currently going on, Charleston Wraps. So if you like to get your wrapping paper and other supplies, they have all kinds of other supplies with it too. Find a Fritch kid and go ahead and get an order placed. And also on October 11th, they're going to be having a Breakfast of Champions. And then for Fremont Elementary School, they would like to express their gratitude for the community support at their fall festival. They were able to raise over about $5,000 for the extra programs at the school. And I'd like to thank the staff at Fremont for putting that on. I attended the fall festival with my 9-year-old, who was reluctant at first to go on a Friday night date with his mom. And then now we drive by and he's like, that's where we went to the carnival, and it was so fun because they had really great activities for kids and families of all ages, and it was really neat. And he did get to dunk one of the principals in the dunk tank, which was pretty fun that they did that. So that was a great event, great community support. The mayor was there, fire trucks until they got called out, but they had quite a few community support things going on there, and the cotton candy machine and food trucks and everything that were donating things. So it was a really nice event. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Joe.
A few things. One, I want to apologize for not making the superintendent's tour. Life got in the way, but I would have liked to have attended, and I'm glad we had a good presence there. And I did hear that it sounded like it was really appreciated, so thanks for setting that up. Let's see, Carson High School Junior Parent Night. It's a chance for parents and students to attend. It's, let's see, or did it happen already?
It's today.
It's today. It happened already, never mind. But, yeah, sorry about that. However, if anybody's interested, parents of juniors, it's a nice opportunity to find out what's going on and get prepared for graduation. Those who wait until it's your senior year, and we were one of them, there's a lot of catch-up to do. So, they talk about scholarships and financial aid and how to, diploma types and graduation requirements, and it's a good opportunity to get organized and get your student organized ahead of time. As we heard, University of Montana Western and UNR are going to be on campus at the high school, Carson High School, Friday, September 27th for University of Montana and October 3rd for UNR. Both are during AB 55, and anybody interested can sign up in the guidance office. And then last, this weekend, I believe, is Jog for Jordan, and it's the third annual, and it's what they do is they raise dollars for suicide prevention and awareness. It's a fantastic cause. The proceeds go to supporting student scholarships within our community. So if anybody enjoys running, even if you don't like running, there's a 1 mile race, and most of us could walk that. But they do a 1 mile, a 5K, and a 10K race. It starts at McFadden Plaza. Entry fees are $20 to $45. First race begins at 8:45 a.m. And if you want to register, you can go to Jog for Jordan Facebook event page, or you can go to ultrasignup.com and just search for Jog for Jordan. And that includes, I will just say I went to the honors, National Honor Society inductions last night as well, as did most of us. And it's always a great opportunity. And I just wanted to say thanks to all our keynote speakers every year that come out. It's always a nicely run program, and every year I've gone, the keynote speakers do a fantastic job, and I think they go a long way to inspiring the students and hear what's waiting for these kids. So anyway, it was a good event, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Don?
Just an announcement for Al Seliger Elementary School. Thursday night, September 26th, from 5:30 to 7 p.m., they're going to have a family night. They've had a book fair all week, and this is a family night at the book fair on Thursday. And before our next meeting, the Carson High School Blue Thunder Marching Band is going to open their field show contest season at Galena. And they perform at 1 o'clock on Saturday, October 5th. And that's my report.
Thank you, Mike.
So a few things from Pioneer High School. So Tuesday, September 17th, they had their open house, and they report that there was a great turnout, and they were happy to see all the families at their school. Another thing that happened last week is a group of their students attended a field trip that was hosted by the River Wranglers and the Nevada Department of Educational Protection. And they mentored a group of fourth graders from Seliger and Miss Nielsen's class and learned about the water cycle, water quality, microinvertebrates, and they received some kudos and recognition from River Wranglers for being so responsible and helpful. So congratulations to them for helping the little guys. And they have a few upcoming events. On September 25th, Project Discovery Ropes course will be offered for students. On October 3rd, they're going to have their first rock climbing trip of the year. October 10th, there is a JAG, Jobs for American Graduates, initiation at 6 p.m. at the Governor's Mansion. And finally, on October 11th is Photo Makeup Day along with senior portraits.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, I attended that open house, and it was really interesting because we hadn't finished the construction before the last open house. It was all fenced off, and it was really nice to hear the comments that a lot of the parents had, that how that had helped. And the student body decided now that they've had a prom, they want to have a Winterfest. So they got together. So they're having they're raising funds. So if you want to donate before October 26th, I think it is, you can go down to the office. You can get a T-shirt for $15, and if you give them a 20, they'll put that 5 towards their Winterfest, or they'll be at the pumpkin patch doing cookies. So, and that's all student-driven, so that was pretty cool to see. And the Fall Fest was really nice, too. It did take the mayor on a tour of our CLS facilities, and he was really impressed, and we got to meet some of the students, which was really cool, and the teachers. So that was a great job for Fremont. We appreciated all that. And then Mr. Conley sent me stuff on Eagle Valley, and he wanted to let us know that his leadership students raised $492 for Junior Diabetes Research Foundation. The students donated $1 to wear a hat and $1 to wear a non-standard student attire, all of which was donated to that cause. Cookie dough sales in September 25th with the goal of selling $25,000 worth of merchandise. Our students are giving the goal of selling 3 items to meet this goal. Money will be used for our wonderful PTO to purchase shade structures in the student activity area, and if students meet the goals, Dr. Conley and Dr. Mullen will dress up as characters chosen by the students. That's always a fun one. They come up with some of the coolest costumes. I have to say I enjoy that. And I think that's it. And then just to let you know that the foundation does have their mini grants open for teachers. So that's till November. You can go to the website and click on foundation, and that'll take you to that. And also Reno Dolan is having their classroom fundraiser right now. You can get up to $5,000 if you apply for that, and that's till the October 25th. So let's get that money, girls and boys. Moving on to association reports. Seeing no movement. Moving on to public comment then. Comments may be made by members of the public on any matters within the authority of this board. Please note the public comment will be taken on these items marked for possible action before action is taken on such items, and members of the public are encouraged to comment on items at such time they are being considered. Although members of the board may respond to questions and discuss issues raised during public comment, no action may be taken on such matters until the matter is placed on an agenda for the meeting at the meeting of the board. In making public comment, speakers are asked to come to the table, speak into the microphone, and identify themselves for the record. Speakers are asked to limit their comments to no more than 3 minutes and not simply repeat comments made by others. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, moving on to number 7, report on the types of services provided by CCSD by the Northwestern Regional Professional Development Program for the 2018-2019 school year. For discussion only. Ms. Fushon.
Thank you, Madam President. According to NRS 3918.205, our Northwest Regional Professional Development Program has to put together an annual report of the services they provide to the regional districts. So I'd like to introduce their new director, Sarah Cunningham. She's just joined us. She's actually in her 3rd month in her position as well as me. So we have that in common. So we just smiled at each other and said, we're going to do this and we'll talk about what happened last year. It's good. We are twinsies. So we do have some supporting documentation in your board packet for you to look at, but I'm going to turn it over to Sarah to kind of walk you through that.
Great. Hello, yes, my name is Sarah Cunningham, and yes, very new in my position, so bear with me, please. You do have a copy of the pages specifically for Carson City School District in the annual report. I would like to speak to you about this, and then I can talk more specifically about the services that were provided. Again, my title is the Northwest Regional Professional Development Program. So you might hear RPDP said a lot. That is who we are. We are a small but mighty group. I have 13 trainers and we work in 6 school districts. And it is our job to be responsive to school districts and their needs in professional learning, carry out specific legislation mandates, tied to professional learning, such as the NEPF, the evaluation system, and we have a lot of computer science stuff in place. So things like that. So again, it's a great group of trainers. So what you have in front of you is really, it's a quick summary to show that we As our PDP last year, worked with about 18% of the educators in Carson City. So just a big idea there. The work we did specifically had to do a whole range of services. We did as well this year provide some training on the evaluation systems for school psychologists, school social workers, speech and language pathologists, those specialized areas. So we get those new staff up to par on their evaluation system. So that took place last year and again this year. We also do support in the national boards. So teachers that are going through the national boards process, we have a large cohort that we lead, and we provide mentoring. We have readers. We actually have a stipend employee from Carson City who supports us as well. So we help teachers through that process, which is very rigorous, as you know, either their initial national boards or recertification. So again, that happened last year, and we're continuing that this year. We've done a lot of work in computer science. We recently had a script training. Essentially, representatives from Carson City School District came together and they worked on the computer science standards and did some planning with that. We have 2 trainers that are actually housed at Carson High School. I was there last week. It explains the boy band dress-up day, now that I know it's homecoming. I know. Well, the boy band.
That's what every day is like in Carson City.
Is it? Oh,
Yeah.
I did say I want to move my office there. Carson City has been very welcoming. I will let you know. I love coming to Carson City. So I was ready to move a desk there. The boy band theme got me. But our 2 trainers, their background is in computer science and math. So but they work regionally. They work across school districts as well. So we bring trainers from all over. We've done some work in literacy, and we are actually in the process of working with a few elementary schools on planning some professional learning in balanced literacy and in writers workshops. So that's upcoming. We have administrative support and coaching and mentoring for first and second year administrators. So they have that one-on-one support from retired principals who've been there and done that. So that's definitely helpful. Math support, writing training. I apologize, I'm going over the list. It's a long list. Work with reading and writing, SEL, social emotional learning. So whatever we're called upon, we're here to be responsive and to continue the work. This year, a new program that our organization started in Washoe County, we've brought to the rural districts called Teachers Leading Change. And it's a blended model. We just started our first course about 4 weeks ago, and we have some Douglas County and Carson City teachers participating, and it's a 2-year program, and with the intention to build leadership for teacher leaders, self-efficacy. We work on specific competencies with those teachers, and it is amazing. I was able to attend about half the day. It was very inspiring. The teachers, really, they're teachers who want to stay in teaching. They're not interested in being administrators. They want to make change internally, work with their grade level or their departments, and we are off to a great start. So we're really excited because that's a change for us. This is the first time we've tried the blended model, and we're hoping to expand it in years to come. So we did get a good response to that. Additional work in social studies as well. Sorry, I'm just listing things here, because that's what we do. We do a lot of things. And I have our current work because I also pulled some information up to this school year, all my papers. We also have a new trainer in science. She just came from us from the university, Dr. Connolly, and she is starting work at the high school. So they are going to be working with the science department and digging deeper into the science standards and building some lessons and work around the science, specifically in the new science practices. So she's excited about that. And the staff has been very welcoming, and they're eager for it. So that's exciting. So thus far this year, we've had about 314 Carson City teachers participate in our activities for this year with over 500 hours of support. So we're continuing that documentation. I'm hoping you see us around. And again, just trying to become a common name in all of our school districts, that RPDP. I'm hoping people know who we are when you hear that. And we are excited to support you in whatever you need, and That's all I have. That's a lot, maybe.
It is. And actually, you are very familiar with our two RPDP folks that are stationed here. It is Rob Ma and Jackie McCune. And I know that you've all met them and seen them present at different times. And Patty Falk actually was brought in last year and led the learning focused supervision training for all of our administrators. So we work very closely hand in hand and receive a lot of support from Northwest RPDP and all the programs that we do. So, I mean, I look forward to a continued partnership with them as well this year.
Thank you. Any questions?
I just want to say thanks for, thanks for your organization and helping us through this. I know the teachers have a difficult, they always have a difficult day in front of them. There's lots going on, the administrators as well. Nobody is underworked in the district, and that is not, we're not abnormal in that regard. But we appreciate, the guidance and the help and helping our people get through a lot of these standards and, just making their days, more efficient, better, and increasing their understanding. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mike?
So Sarah, to save myself an email later, one of the things I've been wondering about is the RPDP looking at any kind of training on restorative practices? Just with SB 168, I know it's going to be huge in all districts, but I know that particularly for teachers, they're not really sure exactly what that might look like in their classes. And so I think it'd be a great opportunity to have some professional development in that area.
Absolutely. And that's a great idea. And we do have some teachers who have or trainers, that have some pretty in-depth training themselves. We have not started a course that we've started to create, but we certainly can. And it is a need across all of our school districts.
Anyone else? Thank you very much. We appreciate all your hard work, and by next year, you'll be all set to do this again. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Sarah, for coming. Appreciate it. Moving on to number 8, annual report from the Carson City School District Family Life Committee for the 2018-2019 school year. For discussion only, Mrs. Story, welcome.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Sheila Story. I'm the chief nurse for the Carson City School District and the committee chair for the Family Life Advisory Committee for our school district. So thank you, board members and district office, for inviting me this evening to review with you what we what we accomplished last year in the 2018-2019 school year. So currently, we have our chair, which is myself. We have a parent, Candace McDaniel, and then we currently have 3 parent openings. Advertisement for those openings have gone into the Nevada Appeal. Any type of parent who is interested, we are requesting that they get a letter of interest and a resume to us by October 11th, and then we'll proceed from there. We have Ann Dankworth, who is the school nurse at Eagle Valley Middle School as our medical. We have Whitney Tynes at Carson Middle School, who is our school counselor on the committee. We have Tina Wagner, who is I believe she's a 3rd or 4th grade teacher now at Fritch Elementary School. And we have Chris White as our religious affiliate. And we do have vacancies for students, so we are recruiting students to be on the committee this year. So real quick, in the year 2018-2019, the Family Life Advisory Committee met 3 times over the school year. We had a good group of individuals who actively participated in the meeting. They provided great knowledge, understanding, and insight to the material presented. And we also had very healthy discussions on everything that was presented. The things that we went through and approved were number 1, the Family Life Advisory Committee Rules and Procedures. We reviewed and approved DVDs from Making Proud Choices, and these videos were requested to us by not only Carson City Health and Human Services, but also our health teachers to present within the classrooms. And we had kind of a deadline. They wanted to present them in December. So we went ahead and we did approve the subject of puberty, I'm sorry, the subject of puberty, the subject of HIV, and Tasha and Shay, which is, or Tanisha and Shay, which is a storyline in regards to young individuals who got pregnant as teenagers and what type of decisions they had to make. And it was kind of an open-ended type of thing. It kind of ended, leaving a very good, healthy discussion within the classroom with students on what are your options and that type of stuff. Erin Bean, the health teacher at Carson High School, reported on the DVDs, making proud choices being presented within their classrooms and the students receiving them very well, which then opened up the classrooms to a very healthy discussion. Erin Bean and myself informed the committee of the review and revision of the current Nevada State Health Standards, which is a statewide committee. Basically, we are taking the Nevada academic content standards for health that were revised in the year 2007, and they're bringing the committee back together, and we're currently revising them. It is a process. We're not completed with them, but once they are completed, they will be open for public review, and I believe there are several steps in regards to accepting them and approving them. So we'll keep you updated and posted on that. And then also, we had the Carson City Health and Human Services come and just report on how things were going. We have a very good collaborative partnership with them where they come into our classrooms and they help present some of our material. We also have our entire freshman class go over to the Carson City Health and Human Services on a field trip. They walk over there from the high school and they get a tour of Carson City Health and Human Services and all the resources and materials and education that they can provide for students. So it was a great year, very productive year. We had some great individuals. We always invite our health teachers from Carson Middle and Carson High School to attend. We also invite any community members and yourselves if you ever want to attend, which brings me to our schedule for this upcoming school year. For October, November, December, February, March, and April. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions? Lupe?
I'm just curious why you have so many vacancies on the parent. Is it hard to get parents to volunteer for these type of committees?
You know, I don't think it is. Our first individual who decided to step down was on the committee for 15 years, and that's Jen Trepesky. She did a wonderful job, very nice individual, and she brought great insight and knowledge to the committee. The second one was Mary Covington, and she has 2 children, one who graduated last year, one who's graduating this year, and they're really trying to get them all into college and get them all set up. So, she also went back to work. And then our third one was Christina Peterson, and she actually moved out of the area. She moved down to Southern California and is working for a school district down there. So she had to resign for her position.
Any other questions? Any questions from the public? Okay. Thank you very much. We appreciate any parents, grab her on the way. We appreciate your time and service to this committee. You've been on there a long time, so we do appreciate it. Thank you for coming tonight.
Words. Thank you.
Oh, that's right. Moving on to number 9, discussion and possible action to approve the Family Life Advisory Committee rules for procedures for the Carson City School District. Mrs. Stories.
So real quick, in reviewing the policies and procedures, we noticed that there was an NRS change. It's just a number, but we do have to get your approval for it. Anyway, it went from NRS, I have something on my head. I have 2 pair of glasses. No one told me I had 2 pair of glasses on my head.
I noticed that. I didn't want to say anything.
Okay, it's been a long day.
Who's going to question the district nurse?
What is on my head?
You won't be missing him. That's.
How many pencils are up there?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, I'm so sorry. Anyway, we're replacing NRS 389.014 to NRS 389.036, which is placed on page 7 in section 2.1 for the committee members, or under the committee members.
Is that the only change?
Yes, that is the only change at this time.
I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees adopt as presented the revisions of the Family Life Advisory Committee Rules of Procedures for the Carson City School District.
Motion by Laurel, second by Mike. Any other discussion by the board? Any public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Moving on to number 10, discussion on proposed changes to CCSD Policy 206, guidance counseling, first reading for discussion only. Mrs. Fouchon.
Thank you. Trustees, Tasha Fuson for the record. I've actually asked Whitney Tynes, our lead counselor for our district, to join me as well. In Senate Bill 319 from the 2019 Nevada legislative session, they made amendments to Chapter 388 and 391 of the Nevada Revised Statutes. Those changes set to clearly define the roles of counselors, social workers, and school psychologists. So in reviewing our board policy 206, our counseling team looked at the wording in the bill as well as the wording in our policy, and we decided to, instead of trying to wordsmith it when we thought it was pretty clear in the bill, just to adopt their language. So what you're seeing in here is specifically with our six pieces struck out, the new explanation of duties of the counselors are literally taken word for word from the bill. We just thought it was clear to do it that way, and they didn't require really any interpretation. We thought they were fairly clear in terms of expectations. So that's exactly where that verbiage came. And specifically in our district, we don't call it guidance counseling, we call it school counseling. So that was a specific request of our counseling team.
Any questions? Richard?
I understand that the wording's from the NRS, right? Yeah, but I wonder, do you have any idea why they didn't make it from K through 12? And why they limited to 6 to 12th?
Well, it specifically speaks to K-12 comprehensive guidance program. The way it's worded in in NRS is that districts are only required to provide the extent of services that they can fiscally manage. So currently in our district, we have one elementary counselor, and then we have, we provide counseling at all middles and high schools straight through. But we have the one counselor we have at the elementary is split between two different sites.
Joe?
I don't know if it's a big issue, but I've been hearing, has nothing to do with the content of this, but listening to the news and whatnot, there's a lot of folks, his versus her versus their. And in here, in new 1B, devote not less than 80% of his or her time. Is it being forward-thinking? Should we say devoting their time? Is that something we're concerned about at this point?
If you're concerned about it, I'm
I'm
concerned
not.
about it.
Truthfully, I'm just asking the question. It's not a concern of mine, but I was just
Great.
trying to be forward-thinking.
Great, sure. I appreciate it.
I'm just thinking grammatically, you would use his or her when it's singular and theirs when it's plural. And I know that there's a move to shift pronouns. I still think we're okay with saying his or her, unless devote not less, because it's a school counselor. I mean, we could plural. Nah, I don't know if we need to make it plural. I don't know.
Yeah, for me, it wasn't an issue of singular versus plural. I was just,
Yeah,
throwing it out there for some thought.
Well, you could also just take that out and you could say devote not less than 80% of their work time or their workday providing direct services to students. And then it's not a his or her question, it's just
Yeah.
a.
So just
at
80%
work, this
of
is what you
time.
do. Yeah.
We could say,
Yeah.
devote not less than 80% of the contracted work time.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
That's really, if we start doing that grammatically, it's going to blow my mind, though.
Oh, yeah.
One other thought that I was thinking of, though, because I just did a quick search of the NRS referenced, and it doesn't have all this new stuff in there, but it does define a school counselor. Do we want to include any definition of what a school counselor is in our policy as well? Definition of what just a thought, not that I'm saying it, just thinking it might be an idea, so.
And just on that same line, I mean, I'm on the counselor's advisory team for the district, and that's one of the things that has been discussed at every one of our meetings. And I know Mrs. Keem and I talked with groups twice last year about that, and it is exactly what is that role, and what a teacher thinks a counselor does, and what a counselor thinks a counselor does, what an administrator thinks a counselor does. They're all different. And in the middle there is, how do we meet the needs of the kids? And so I don't think that's a bad idea.
I'm
Any
happy to
other
add that.
Questions or comments?
You're very agreeable today.
Well, there you go. I think to me, the real important piece is truly that came from the specific bill, again, was really trying to define, since social workers are so new in schools, really trying to define what is the difference between the services that a counselor provides versus a social worker. We've had school psychologists for quite some time, but I think since they were looking at all three of those groups to say how, specifically what functions do these folks do so that they're not overlapping. Well, they certainly overlap, but they're not treading on each other's toes trying to provide the same services. So what you'll see coming up in the next couple of months is we're going to be relooking at our social worker, the policy regarding our social workers as well, and redefining the roles as the bill sets forth for them. Typically, I guess the big ideas for me are that our school counselors really focus on really student academics, and that can be how a student's behavior and or social emotional state of mind at that point in time has an effect on academics, but really the focus is on academics, if you will. With our school social workers, the focus is more on surrounding support, family support. Potentially, some of them are licensed therapists, so being able to provide beyond therapy beyond what a school counselor is perhaps licensed to do. So really kind of looking at two sides of the same coin, if you will, and then providing wraparound services for all. So the descriptors in there, really the way it's written in that bill is specifically to say school counselors shall, not required, but shall, can do these or may do these, and a social worker may do this, and a school psychologist may do these, to try to, I think, quantify kind of what those differences might look like. But
one other thing that, one thing that as an administrator you always talk with counselors about is, like I know at the middle school, when I worked at Carson Middle School, the counselors really oversaw a lot of the testing for us. And so would testing fall in that 20%? So 80% is direct services towards students, and then is testing and everything else kind of in that 20%, or is that the can of worms? Because I mean, I know this is a conversation I have with my counselor all the time. It's like, sometimes I just need your help.
so that is a loaded question, because I think it depends on what perspective you look at from that. Within our state and within the NEPF, they've tried to align the focus or the scope of the work that our counselors do to the ASCA standards, the American School Counselors Association standards. And really, testing does not fall in there as one of those responsibilities. So to the extent possible, we try to remove our counselors from, for instance, maybe organizing. They still will, just like a teacher does, they will go in and proctor, be school, test proctors, et cetera. But in terms of, they used to, maybe 10 years ago, a decade ago, spend almost all of their time organizing the tests. They used to be test coordinators at most sites. So that's majorly shifted. I think at the high school, for instance, right now, the only test really that is, or tests that are coordinated by our school counselors are AP testing. Mrs. Grunert is our AP coordinator, so she does manage AP testing. And then like the ACT and SAT that are done on the weekend, Mrs. Weaver does that. When it comes to the rest of the assessments, the required assessments like MAP testing or SBAC testing, or even ACT during the day testing at the high school, those are done, our test coordinators are administrators. So we've tried to take really, as much as possible, that role off of the table of our counselors so that they can actually provide academic counseling to students. And in many cases, again, before we had social workers, our counselors were actually really addressing the whole gamut of social, emotional, and providing short-term counseling services to students, especially at the middle school. A lot of the work was like peer mediation, those types of activities. So again, now having the advent of school social workers trying to figure out how we can refocus the counselors, again, not that they're not going to help in those capacities, but really to be able to provide a strong academic focus to the work that they do. And then again, having the wraparound support services provided by the social workers, families, and bringing that aspect in. But I know every district does things a little bit differently. Trustee Walker.
No, I was just asking because I was truly thinking about how much testing at Carson Middle School our counselors really did. So that was kind of one of the thoughts that came in my mind.
No, I would say
You just need to state your name.
Oh,
real quick.
Whitney
No
Tynes.
problem.
Sorry, guys. No, I would say that we mostly just end up proctoring a lot. That's what we do now. So a lot of that work is shifted to the vice principals, and we're mostly there for support. That is a concern, though. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up. That came up. Well, now it says we're going to spend 80% of our time. What does that look like? And how do we accomplish that at each of our sites? Because every site is different, and the needs are different, and the expectation of our administration is different. And of course, all the counselors, none of us begrudge, like you said, sometimes I just need your help. And of course, we're always willing to do that. As long as there can be open communication between the counselors and the administrators of what are those boundaries and what does that look like? Like, I can't help you with this because I really need to do this, or it's affecting the main purpose of me being in this building, so.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay.
Okay, so for our second reading, I will bring back a definition. I will add a definition on there and change the wording on number 1. Is that number 1? Number 1. Okay.
Perfect, thank you. Moving on to number 11, brief overview and discussion of the development of the new CCSD 12, or K-12 Digital Comprehensive Counseling Program Manual for discussion only. Mrs. Times and Ms. Musha.
So before I turn this over to Whitney, I want you to know that part of that bill specifically lays out the fact that each district should have a comprehensive guidance program. And our counseling team has been working diligently and throughout all of past school year and into this year to kind of put that together for what do counseling services look like truly K-12, and again, knowing that within the elementary environment, we only have one counselor to service 2 schools, 2 of our schools. But so what do those services look like? So they have been working together to put together our comprehensive manual, and it is typically in digital format because we are trying to move to be digital learners. But what you have in your packet is an example of areas that Whitney's going to kind of go over with you. If you would like, and this is the reason why I'm telling you this, is that I can move over to the computer and we can actually show you what it looks like in digital form. The intent is, it's actually right now in Google Drive. The intent is to put it in SharePoint. SharePoint for our district is an intranet so that all of our guidance counselors and administrators could access it. And then we will do links to the district website for parents to access the pieces of the manual that would pertain to parents. So that is the long-term vision of what that will look like. But it is a work in progress right now. So I've simply asked Whitney to join me to kind of talk you through some of the pieces and what the work in progress is right now.
So I did want to give you a little background. So last year, the school counselors came together. We started meeting monthly. And then we also created our advisory counselor, which Mike is a part of, and other community members. And we also started to do professional development that was specific to the school counselors. So we got to start doing that last year, which was very helpful. So part of that, the fruits from that advisory council was to come up with this K-12 program, and then also to create our calendars. So you have an example of the middle school calendar, but there's also an elementary school and then the high school calendar as well. So looking at that, on the left-hand side, under the months, which is the same for each level, there is just like listed kind of what it is that we do every month. Like these are just things that happen that month. And then you'll see it's divided up by grade level. And so those are the kinds of lessons that we're providing each month. And so that's kind of what the calendar looks like. It's different for the elementary school and then also for the high school.
We don't have a copy of the calendar in our packet. We have the Carson City Mindsets and Behaviors for Student Success.
Oh, okay.
Got it.
I think it's the last couple.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, right here. It starts.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So those are just kind of what our calendars look like. And like we said earlier, our goal is that we want to make this public. And our date to do that is National School Counseling Week, which begins February 3rd. So that is our goal, to have all of this cleaned up. One of the things that we are working on this year is a lot of feedback you get about school counselors is, well, like what you do is behind closed doors. We don't really know what is it that you're doing. So we're really making an effort to be more open and transparent with parents, with staff, and with the community about what it is that we do and the services that we provide for our students in Carson City School District. So we do want to make that public. So for the K-12 program. So this all comes from the American School Counseling Association, ASCA, and they have a set of standards, and those standards are what our state standards are based off of, and also our evaluations are based off of these. And they have mindsets and behaviors for student success, and they have two categories. So there's mindsets, and the other one is behaviors, and then within behaviors, there's 3 different categories, which is learning, self-management, and social skills. The example that you are seeing is self-management skills. So within that, if you look on the left-hand side, you'll see different categories. So for this one, it's demonstrate ability to assume a responsibility. And then you'll see on the right-hand side, we're going over, these are the things that will be introduced and will be taught. And this one, we chose this one because this is one of the ones that's really great, and we're really building from K all the way to 12. Like you can see, this is progressing and it's building. And then on the far right-hand side, you can see, is this a lesson that's a whole group? Is it classroom? Is it individual? And so that kind of breaks it down like that. So these are the standards that we're working with. These are the services that we're providing for our students, the lessons that we're building and offering to them. Granted, it's only at 2 of the elementary schools and then all of the middle schools and the high school. So there are some holes that we get starting at the middle school level, just because Dory's only one person and she's only at 2 places. So we do have some holes from our other students coming from the other elementary schools.
So you ensure that all students go through these classes? So like, do you guys push into certain classes, or how does this work at the middle school or the high school level? Because there's only so many of you and there's a lot of kids in those schools.
Right, so it looks kind of different. Like at the middle school level, there are things that we do like whole classroom. So I would say like one of the big times that we do most of our work at the middle school level is when we're getting ready for student-led conferences. We kind of have like at Carson Middle School, for example, we have a whole month where we're responsible for all of the lessons that are taught. And so that's where we get a lot of this stuff in. When you start getting up to the high school level, you'll start seeing it go to smaller groups. They do have some things that are whole groups, like freshman transitions, that kind of thing. But then you'll start seeing it getting smaller, like maybe just the avid kids are the ones that are getting this information, or it's more individual, just because how do you get access, like at the high school level, how do you get access to the students? I mean, we start struggling with that even at middle school. It's a little bit more difficult for Eagle Valley. We're lucky at Carson Middle School because we have Encore, so we can easily push in and do any kind of lesson anytime that we want to. So it always is a struggle trying to find the time and the access to the kids to be able to provide these lessons.
Anyone else?
So what I've,
I
put on the
do
board
you
for
track how many kids that you're able to provide these lessons to?
Yeah, some of us, that's one of our, one of the things that we're working on more this year is our data collection. Obviously, numbers speak louder than anything. So we do want to really, just for ourselves, to be able to capture, are we spending 80% of our time doing direct services for students? And then how many students are we able to work with, especially at each grade level? Like, what does that look like at the high school as opposed to the middle school, or even for Dory at the elementary schools?
And then I should know this, but what elementary schools do you concentrate on right now?
Dory is at Mark Twain and Empire.
So what I have
That's because of
projected
the-
up here on the television screens for you is where the counseling manual is currently living. So it's living in a Google Team Drive. Once again, once this is completed and it's in its final published version, then we'll move it into SharePoint, which again is one of our district intranet, area, so that all of our counselors can access it, administrators, and then we'll do links. So it's not old school. We can print out pieces and we can make binders if we want to go back in that direction, but this is how the team has put it together so that it can be a living, breathing document and constantly updated and kept current.
And I'll just say to the three of you that are here and the ones that are at home, you guys have a tough job. You guys see the best of kids and them at their worst times, and you guys are usually the ones helping administrators problem solve behind the scenes, and nobody even knows you're involved. So thank you for all you do for our students.
Thank you.
We do appreciate it. It was the hardest thing when it came down to eliminating those positions at the elementary school. That was one of the toughest budget meetings I've ever been through, and I think Ron and I were just totally crushed afterwards. So it's really good to see you guys working together and getting down to that elementary level. We do appreciate that because I know it is a stretch. So we do appreciate that because that was tough. So
Thank you.
thank you guys for all your time. Appreciate it. And thank you for coming tonight.
Now go get ready. Those kids are.
Moving to number 12, informational update on the progress made towards the inspections and studies in the property located at 1600 Schneider Avenue, Carson City, Nevada, for discussion only. Mr. Stokes. And Mr. Berger.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I probably don't have a lot of new information. I know most of you have been attending the Citizens Committee meetings and have also engaged in our Bond Oversight Committee meetings. So just for the benefit of those who might be watching tonight, we held our final Citizens Committee meeting on September the 18th, so about a week ago. And we left that meeting with information that I'll share with you here in a minute. The next day, on September the 19th, we had a Bond Oversight Committee. And so as you know, those two groups are separate and distinct. The Bond Oversight Committee has been around for a number of years, and it is made up of citizens and school staff. So it's a larger group of individuals than that Citizens Committee that was put together specifically to study the 1600 Schneider Avenue possibilities, educational possibilities. So in addition to those two meetings, tomorrow night at Carson High School, we'll have our first community PLC, and that is yet a larger group of individuals. And the entire agenda for that meeting will be 1600 Schneider Avenue, and we'll be talking about some of the things that we talk about tonight and discussing to a larger audience the potential educational uses of that facility as well. Now, since we last met, I think I had let you know that we had not received a response yet from the seller in terms of their responses to our submitted purchase agreement. We have received that since, and so there's a number of items that have been added. I am working through that document now with Mr. Pavlakis, and so we hope to have more information on that at our next meeting. So I have Mr. Darren Berger with us here this evening, and we'd passed out earlier at this meeting some renditions, and I'm grateful for Darren and his thinking. And I'd like to ask for him simply to go through 3 of his drawings, which gives kind of an introduction as to how we could use that property in different ways to accomplish different educational purposes. And after Mr. Berger speaks, I'll come back and talk about the outcome that we had through our Citizens Committee. So thank you, Mr. Berger, for being here.
Well, for the record, Darren Berger, and I'm an architect with a practice here in Carson City, and I'm a graduate of Carson High School. We approached the site from three perspectives, and on all these, we looked at them from a fiscally responsive perspective. We didn't want to create something grand, just wanted to look at it from a very efficient standpoint. So all these have that characteristic. So first and foremost that we're going to look at is what is the minimum amount of effort that we need to put into this site so that we can have a school there. And so that's what this first map is. And to do that, we're going to need to add office space to the building. We're also going to need a library, which is, well, how do I describe it? Kind of in that upper, there we go. Thank you. So it's that red square right there is a library. To the left of that is kitchen space, because that kitchen that's in the multi-purpose building isn't sufficient to meet our needs, so we're going to have to expand that. And then next to that is receiving, kind of a maintenance shop. And then we looked at what we would need for a playground, and so that's that green area in between. And part of that playground, we would need to have some hard surface type courts. So you can see a basketball court there, and a couple of tetherball courts. And then that little yellow area is a swing set area. So those are what we believe were the fundamental things that need to happen at this site as a bare minimum that we can move in. Now, I missed a few things there, I apologize. The two buildings to the right are classroom structures, and those classrooms are tiny. They're like 550 square feet. So our proposal is that we would need to get in there and knock out a center wall so that we would have bigger classroom space. So that's what we're proposing to do in those two structures. And then moving back to the left into the multi-purpose building, that office is going to go underneath that the canopy that's out there. And then we're able to get 2 classrooms on the lower level. We would provide a wheelchair lift to get up to the second level, where we have 2 more classrooms. Now, we haven't accounted for every little space in there, so some of these other spaces could be used for ESL or a teacher workroom and that kind of thing. The other thing that we looked at as we're doing these is where the buses are going to queue up and how that sort of thing is going to work. And so you can see a line of buses along there. So this plan that you're looking at, what we're calling a minimum improvement plan, at a ratio of 22-1, we can get 264 students there. So we're looking at that as an elementary school. Go ahead.
And what is the kiosk?
Yeah. Well, they refer to it as the chapel. out there. We called it a kiosk because it seemed more of a general fit of what it might be. I don't know what to do with that, to be honest with you. It could be a maintenance type building. In the grand scheme of things, it could just go away. But again, I think it exists in all these plans because being fiscally responsive.
That's where Mrs. Fuson's gonna hide when the pressure gets
Yeah.
heated from parents and teachers.
Or AJ during budgets.
Yeah.
So we kept that in there, but in the end, it may go away.
How many classrooms is in this plan? So is it 12 classrooms, or are you looking at expanding past the 12 is what I'm wondering?
No, we're showing that we have a total of 12 classrooms in this scenario, and that we can house 264 students.
With a plan like this, that would be a pretty small elementary school. So are you looking at, like, if we went a plan like this, it might be like a kindergarten, pre-K type building or something more specialized, right? I mean, we'd have a hard time getting a K through 5 classroom or school in there.
So our citizens committee said that in their minds, the most likely type of educational facility would be an elementary school. So without trying to split hairs on who goes there, we really haven't gone there. And they were all grateful for the knowledge that you folks would have the final say. But, all kidding aside, to follow what Mr. Berger has said, we were looking at this particular rendition as being pretty much a turnkey with just a few things that we have to change. Now, this was built as a church. It was not built as a school, so consequently, there aren't bells. There aren't some of the things that schools have that are typical structures. I saw Trustee Crossman say fences. So at all of our sites, for example, we do have a secure envelope of some kind. So what a drawing like this does, it allows us to map out what might be needed for things like fencing, for access points, for bells, for intercoms, for making sure that all of the classrooms have access to telephones and those kinds of safety things. So that's part of the work that's being done right now. But this drawing, and there are several in your packet, was intended to be that very entry-level component, which if we use this for to house approximately 260, 270 students, those are individual students that would be placed from current elementary schools, and through the zoning process, they would be shuffled around. And so it takes pressure off of our current elementary schools if we have an additional campus like this. Okay?
Option 2. Next.
Sorry, Darren, real quick.
It's all right.
I know it's early in the process.
Yep.
Have you done any kind of cost projections yet?
Yeah, I wouldn't dare throw anything out, and that's because we really don't know where we're gonna go. And I could throw a number out and somebody would hang their hat on it, and we wouldn't even be building that building that I'd give you the number for. So, yeah, I don't.
And that's okay, I'm not asking, I'm just curious. So I mean, I would imagine, you and I have worked on stuff where we got some ideas in our head of this versus this versus this. But we're not there yet publicly to talk about round numbers or anything.
I don't think so.
And I can just add that based on recent projects that have been completed in our school district, those numbers have ranged, and this is without any new land purchase, so this is just construction and materials cost. We were right around, just shy of and just over $400 a square foot. And that was just a matter of that event that, again, I think Mr. Berger is wise to not say, you know, this is what we think it might actually cost us, because we're still doing some of that work.
So the next thing we did is, look at this as what it would take to become a full-blown elementary school. And the sweet spot that we're trying to hit is that 600 to 650 student population. And so again, what you're looking at here is an elementary school. We're keeping that expanded kitchen and that library component up there. And that is a connection piece that connects us to the other existing classroom building. We're making bigger classrooms in those existing two structures to the right. And then you'll see to the left side of the multi-purpose building is where we're expanding classroom space. And then down from that is the office. And then there's also some more classroom spaces that are plugging into the end of the multi-purpose building. The campus gets a little bit bigger. The playground area is bigger. The hard surface area for the basketball courts and that is bigger. We now have, 2 basketball courts, and the swing set area is also larger. Upstairs, again, in the multi-purpose building, we're showing 2 classrooms and a wheelchair lift to get up there. So this is kind of the next step up, and this is the real deal, right? It's 600 to 650. I think we're showing, 528 at 22-to-1 ratio. And there are 24 classrooms in that proposal. So moving on then.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Richard?
As Joe said, I know we're early into the process, but 2 things that concern me, and I'm hoping that before we make the final determination to buy or not buy the property, is parent access to pick up students. What's that going to look like? And then also, if we go with an elementary school eventually, is that going to be a no-walk zone, just parent drop-off zone? Because there's not really any place for students to walk if they're in that mile area. I know I wouldn't want my child walking down Snyder Avenue, and there's no sidewalks. So I'm hoping that before we have to make a final determination, maybe you could give some consideration to that.
Yeah, and that's a very excellent point, and we just haven't really addressed that yet. Just trying to look at more bigger picture, and then as we land on an idea, we'll certainly start to grind on those kinds of things.
To me, it's a very important part. I drop my granddaughter off every day at Carson Middle School, and it flows, fairly well, but it's really congested, and I just think we need to really give some consideration to how we're going to get the parents in and out.
Yep, I think that's a great observation.
Okay, next.
So next, this is a middle school scenario. And so what happens when you get to the middle school level, it affects our multi-purpose building. We need a full-blown gymnasium in a middle school situation. So you can see that gray area, and then right above it is a yellow line with some blue above it. So that's a locker room space. And all that is still contained within that multi-purpose building, but we've gone in and we've gutted that entire space to create that. But again, it's a full court. It has grandstands on either sides, and it has a locker room. Because I think we'll have PE classes at this grade level. Behind that is the expanded kitchen. And then to the upper right of that again is the receiving and maintenance area. And then just below that then is the cafeteria, because in the elementary scenario, the multipurpose could function as a place for the kids to have lunch. But at a middle school level, that doesn't work. We have to have a cafeteria. Same story with the other classrooms in the existing building. We're blowing out the center wall to make those bigger. To the left-hand side is an addition, and to the far left is a library space, but all the other rooms are classrooms there. Again, we've kept the office in the same general location. But then as you work down between the multipurpose building and the auditorium, there's a collection of those red squares. That is mostly two-story structure. And we would have to provide elevator and stair there. But that's how we get the additional classrooms in that scenario. And then you can see where we start to plug into the auditorium. So those classrooms are actually abutting that building, and now that entire cluster is all connected under one roof. And then what I did is because middle school, you have track. You don't necessarily have football, but if you got a track, you can land a football field between it. And so we looked at there's a chunk of land to the east of us that's owned by Parks and Rec, and we get along with Parks and Rec. We share use, and so I just dropped that on there to see, and it fit. And it's through all this, architects are we got a lot of voices in our head, right? And so just kind of pie in the sky, hey, what if? So I think through all this process is architecturally, what I take from this site is that it has great potential to fit our need. It's just defining what that need is. So through these exercises, like them or not, if they work or they don't work, they illustrate that there's a lot of possibility with this site. So we just need to figure out what to do with it, and we can make it happen.
Thank you. Any questions?
Nice job, thank you.
What was the estimated capacity for this drawing that represents the middle school? How many students?
There are 26 classrooms. At 25 to 1, there's 650 students. So, yeah.
I'm just curious, on the existing classrooms that are there now, I think we all know they're not real durable, for lack of a better word, I guess. In your proposals, is there anything to make those more durable, longer lasting, the existing classrooms?
Absolutely, there is, and you're absolutely right. We wouldn't typically construct a classroom like those two buildings are. They're what we refer to as a stick frame structure, kind of residential grade. But we can put hard surface type wainscoting on the walls to make them more durable. There's products. There's plastic products, there's tile that we could use. We could even put a masonry veneer over the walls. Same could be said for the outside. We could put masonry on it. We could put stucco on it. So there are a lot of options to make that a more robust type structure and more durable. So excellent point. Yep.
Anyone else? Seeing none. Thank you, Darren, for all your time and effort with this project. We do appreciate it. And you've come up with some great ideas out of those voices in your head.
Yeah, thanks.
Right?
Yeah.
See what they come up with next time.
Yeah.
And we'd like to thank the committee too. It was a great committee. We appreciate you putting that together, Mr. Stokes, for us. And they came up with some really good ideas and were very engaged in the whole process, and that was nice. So we do appreciate that from them.
Thank you. So, Madam President, members of the board, just as kind of a summary, our Citizens Committee, again, left that night knowing that that was the last time they were going to meet formally as a group. And they did leave with the concept that they would recommend to you, which, we'll summarize again, that 1600 Snyder Avenue be considered as a elementary school. Now, there were a couple of other nuances that I'm going to kind of hold in reserve until we get a little closer. But one of the things that needs to happen in our community, and President Wilkie and I have talked about this, as have I with my staff, which is the concept that all of our school district could be considered a great candidate, and this could be a great time for us to consider rezoning the school district. This concept of rezoning, again, and I think the general picture of considering any changes to our property assets is to take into account the growth of the community over time, to have properties that can benefit the school district and address some of the issues of student enrollment crowding in our schools. We know that community is going through a growth time right now. We all see the growth, the expansion of residential developments. At some point, those developments are going to have an impact on our school district in terms of how many students are going to our schools. And so with the limitation of available properties in the community that are large enough to hold a school, we're looking at a property that could certainly fill a variety of needs for the community. And we can do that in a small way, which makes a lot of sense because our growth to the area right now is not huge, but we expect that over time it will continue to grow. We could take that perspective of going slow enough that we develop these properties slowly, and over time we fit into them to a larger extent. So anyway, I just want to ask that you keep your minds open, that we look for properties that will benefit the school district over time, that even if there are buildings at the 1600 Snyder Avenue, and if we do choose to purchase this property, there's a great building out there that could go to work for the school and the community tomorrow without a lot of changes. And that's that wonderful auditorium. So anyway, I think that almost to a person, we have heard nothing but praise for the possibilities of this property. And of course, we'll be continuing to bring information back to you. If we do discover that there's some aspect of that property that is just untenable for a school district, we'll certainly make that available and known to not only you folks, but to the community as well. I'd like to say thanks to Jessica Garcia and the appeal. They've been at all of the meetings as well and have done a really fair job of reporting what's been going on. And I think that information has been important to our community. I get a lot of comments from community members who said, "Oh, how's that going? That's kind of an interesting project." And so certainly as you folks have an opportunity to use your influence in the right places just to get the information out, I think is important to us. So any questions?
When you're talking about rezoning, we've had conversations over the years, and I think one of the comments that's been made in the past is kind of through variances, families have kind of self-equaled out the zoning of our schools. And I think that that's one of the things we want to look at is how many variances are really in play here, because that's going to be impacted. And I think that we probably are going to want to start talking about this with some of our stakeholders so that it's not such a surprise when we as the board start the process. I think that just getting some of that feedback and kind of explaining the need to really look at our zoning and kind of balancing out our attendance zones would be helpful as we move forward.
Thank you.
Which is why we've started bringing it up now, so we can start getting people thinking that way before it gets to the board point, so that it's not a shock and we have time to get community input. So it's not like last time where it was like, oh, we have a meeting, we're rezoning after 6 hours, here's your zone. So we're really trying to get people starting in that mindset, and it was a perfect way to start with this, to start that discussion, and especially with the numbers that we've seen at Carson Middle School. So that's why we keep bringing it up, because we really are gonna start working on it, and it's not gonna be one of those one meeting done kind of deals. It's gonna be looking at a lot of those,
And I think-
those things.
And I think that we just have to branch out, because a lot of just Joe Blow families aren't necessarily listening to the school board meetings. There's some that do, but I think there's going to be families that are impacted which have no idea. And so I don't know if, starting at the schools like Carson Middle School, which are so impacted by those numbers, and then maybe starting to spill down to some of those elementary schools and just maybe start the discussion is what I'm thinking.
Well, and it's not only just the parents, it's also the community. I mean, you start putting more people in Eagle Valley and we have to do changes there, the community around it is gonna have some say in it too. So that's why we're on that same track. We're all thinking alike, so we're getting you guys thinking that's where we're going. You're not gonna have
And
these 8:30
look how
meetings.
eager Mr. Stokes looks for this process.
I did appreciate one, and because I attended the citizen committee meetings, and one of the suggestions was to survey the parents, ask them what type of schools would you like to see, what change, do you want an additional middle school at some point? Do you want a second high school in Carson City? Those type of things. There was concern, I think, fair to say, with that committee about the size of Carson Middle School. And knowing that both Carson Middle School and Eagle Valley are at capacity, there's concern on how do we alleviate the crowding at our middle schools. So they did toss around some different ideas and options for that, but that one of the things would be to ask parents, is that something that, are these things that you'd be interested in having go forth too?
Well, and one thought that I have is, it seems like now with Jumpstart, we have more and more juniors and seniors who are spending the majority of their time off campus at WNC. How much room is that opening up at the high school? Is that giving us a little bit of flexibility there to maybe bump up some 8th grade, or, you know what I mean? I know it's not optimal. I'm just saying that if we have empty classrooms because a big chunk of kids are going to WNC, that's another option we could look at. I'm just thinking outside the box.
And there we go with that senior experience that I'm all worried about, but, and that's the other thing, when we start discussing it, we'll probably have meetings at those school sites. They won't all be here, so that the people will actually come to them. They'll be in their backyard, so just a matter of fact, or library. The library seems to do really well when we have stuff there, so. Anyway, that's a different agenda item. So thank you guys for your time, appreciate it. We'll look forward to hearing an update in 2 weeks. Hopefully we'll have appraisal or something to discuss then. Remember that October 22nd meeting that is gonna be the meeting where the decision is gonna be made. So make sure you mark your calendar so you can be here. Going on to number 13, approval of consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Dawn. Any discussion by the board? Any public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to informational items. Remember, the PLC is tomorrow at the library. We're going to be going over this yet again at the Snyder, so that'll be good with them. Any questions or any discussion on those? Seeing none, request for future agenda items? Richard?
AJ, would it be too soon in the budget year to give us an update on where we stand on the budget?
I could give you a pretty good ballpark. At the next meeting, if it was the meeting after, well, maybe a little bit better. I can talk with Mr. Stokes about it and see what I can put together. But yeah, we're getting near that point.
I was just going to add, the new commission to take a look at state funding happens on the 27th. So that's this Thursday, I believe. Friday, sorry. And so, I don't know if that meeting is going to be a lot of meaty discussion or if it'll be, kind of an introduction of the parties, but that process has at least begun. And of course, we have AJ representing the school district in really northern Nevada on that commission.
So maybe after a couple months, we'll have you do an update on that, AJ. Any others? Mike?
One of the things I talked to Renee about briefly is if we want to look at starting to do electronic board packets instead of all the paper, but maybe just kind of what is a cost? Is it going to be a cost saver? Or I'm just thinking save some paper if we could, a lot of these documents, just read them digitally and move forward that way.
And have technology classes for those of us that aren't very technology
We
savvy.
could help you, Stacy.
Okay.
We could help you.
Madam President, members of the board, I think we have that ability now. I think we have it electronically.
We do get it electronically.
And we work at your, at your desire, so I think you have the ability to really have either or.
We have a function of having it, but it's not like board docs where you can have it all together. It's separate, so. Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody's time. I know staff's been here a long time, and Mr. Stokes, I really do want to shout out. You've done so much more than the 9 to 5 that most superintendents have done, especially this last month with the Citizens Committee and then today with the superintendent's arrival. And so I really want to thank you for all your time and fortitude for doing that. And thank your wife for allowing us to have you at all these things too. We appreciate her understanding.
Very kind of you, but these are exciting times. This is interesting work that we're doing, and it's work that's going to bless our community into the future. So it's fun to be part of that. Thank you, though, and thanks to my staff. They're carrying a heavy load as well.
We'll adjourn. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Have a good night. It's not 8:30.